As the movie begins, a pregnant woman named Natalia is introduced. Soon, it is time for her delivery. Alina, Natalia's mother, is also present. Natalia's condition begins to cause her discomfort, and her mother immediately takes her to the hospital. Due to the late hour, most of the doctors are absent. However, a nurse is available to assist her. Natalia gives birth to a child, but when they see the infant, everyone is shocked and concerned. What they witness is incredible. The baby begins to fly. Natalia is astonished as well. She tells her mother that an angelic baby has been born into their family. Being knowledgeable and experienced, Natalia's mother realizes that this child is not ordinary. Indeed, the baby was born without the effects of gravity. Feeling vulnerable and unprotected, they decide to leave the hospital despite the nurse's protest that it's not yet time for their discharge. Ignoring her, they return home. As they enter the house, Natalia's mother asks her a strange question. She urges Natalia to recall the child's caretaker, but Natalia cannot remember any guardian. Then her mother warns that this child is unusual and they must keep it a secret, as they could face many difficulties if anyone finds out. They decide to name the child Oscar, and Oscar is, in reality, an extraordinary boy. Raising him is not easy. When left alone, he often sticks to the ceiling for long periods. His grandmother creates special straps to keep him grounded. They also soften the ceiling with padding and feathers to prevent him from getting hurt. They fear that if he were left outside alone, he might float away into space. So, they are extremely cautious with Oscar. His mother and grandmother care for him diligently. As time passes, Oscar grows, but he remains confined to the house. His grandmother forbids him from going outside. At home, he watches Superman cartoons and imagines himself as a superhero. Repeatedly, Oscar asks his mother, Natalia, why they won't let him go outside, but they brush off his questions. Through the window, Oscar watches other people, including children his age heading to school. He gazes at the playing kids with longing eyes, yearning for an independent life. He begins to feel as though he might be imprisoned forever. One day, frustrated by his confinement, Oscar attempts to escape through the window. His grandmother catches him and becomes furious. Observing his actions, she seals all the windows and sternly tells Oscar that he will never go outside like the school children. She insists he will study at home. Hearing this, Natalia grows angry and confronts her mother, asking how long they can keep him locked away. She argues that he will have to go outside eventually. Determined, Natalia makes a jacket for Oscar and places 2 stones in its pockets to weigh him down so he won't fly. Ignoring her mother's objections, she takes Oscar outside, urging her to keep their secret, even from Superman, or else he won't remain a superhero. One day, while out with his mother to buy goods, Oscar bumps into a girl named Aghata. Her items fall from her hands, and she yells at Oscar, handing him 2 water bottles as punishment. She demands he deliver them to her house. At first, Oscar refuses, but Aghata insists, and he reluctantly agrees. Without telling his mother, he follows Aghata. Now carrying 2 heavy bottles in his hands and stones in his pockets, Oscar feels weighed down. To lighten his load, he secretly drops the stones from his pockets. A friendship begins to blossom between him and Aghata. When they reach her house, Aghata asks for the water bottles back. Oscar hesitates to return them, knowing that without their weight, he might start floating into the air. Aghata, being young and impulsive, snatches the water bottles from Oscar's hands. As she takes them, Oscar begins to float into the air. Fortunately, the area is enclosed, so he doesn't rise too high. Aghata stares in astonishment and shouts, calling him Superman. Oscar pleads for her help. Hearing this, Aghata quickly runs into her house and returns with her pink bag filled with stones. They come up with a clever plan. Oscar will put the stones in his pockets to weigh himself down. The idea works, and Oscar gently descends to the ground. From that moment, they become close friends. Oscar turns to Aghata and says, "Promise me you'll keep this a secret." Meanwhile, Oscar's mother and grandmother grow increasingly worried about his disappearance. They search for him tirelessly, fearing he may have floated away. His mother discovers the stones she had placed in his pockets lying on the ground. Eventually, Oscar returns home with Agatha's bag and tells his mother about his new friend. Suspicious, she asks, "Did you tell her our secret?" Oscar lies, assuring her he didn't. For many days after, Oscar and Agatha continue to meet in secret. One day, however, Oscar's mother discovers that Agatha knows the truth. Furious, she forbids him from seeing Agatha again. When Agatha comes to their house, Natalia turns her away at the doorstep. Over time, their secretive behavior raises suspicion among the neighbors. People begin to notice that Oscar's mother and grandmother seem to mistreat him, keeping him indoors and preventing him from attending school. Concerned, they report the situation to the police. The next day, officers arrive at their home and warn them to send Oscar to school. Under pressure, they have no choice but to comply. Natalia accompanies Oscar to school, her heart heavy with dread. Both she and Oscar feel certain he'll never lead a normal life. As they walk him into the school, tears well up in their eyes. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Natalia decides they can no longer stay. They abandon their home and move to a distant location to start anew. Many years pass. Oscar grows into a young man, his mother ages, and his grandmother eventually passes away. Through it all, Oscar keeps Agatha's bag with him, never parting from it, not even when he sleeps. Even now, his life remains confined to the house, shrouded in secrecy. Oscar and his mother care for each other deeply, but he grows restless and frustrated with hiding his true nature. He begins to dream of a different future, imagining that if the world knew about him, he could become famous like his idol, Superman. He envisions people writing books about him. His mother, however, doesn't share this vision. She warns him it wouldn't turn out as he hopes, fearing she'd lose him if his secret were exposed. For her sake, Oscar suppresses his desires and remains patient. But one day, overwhelmed by his longing for freedom, Oscar rushes out of the house without telling his mother. He heads to a magic show where people showcase their unique talents, determined to reveal his ability for the first time. That night, the show reaches its peak. Unbeknownst to Oscar, his mother watches it unfold on television. She feels helpless as countless viewers see her son floating on screen, instantly making him recognizable. The next day, a man named David approaches Oscar. Introducing himself as an agent, David promises to help Oscar become famous. David, the agent, assures Oscar, will arrange a crowd-pulling event that will make you famous. He provides Oscar with a grand house to live in, securing his signature on a contract. Oscar, eager to achieve his dream of fame, participates in a major show and performs spectacularly. Almost overnight, he becomes a well-known figure, earning the title the Man Without Gravity. The people around him, agents, producers, and promoters, revel in their success, raking in substantial profits. But one day, Oscar reflects on his childhood dream of being a superhero and realizes he isn't one. Instead, he feels like a puppet, exploited for others' amusement. He's paraded from magic shows to media events, and with time, he grows to resent it. Despite his discomfort, books are written about him, magazines feature his face, and documentaries are produced, some portraying his mother and grandmother in a negative light, which Oscar despises. Then comes a final show where he's dressed as an angel, a costume he loathes. Furious, he snaps, shouting, "I am not an angel." He lashes out at the audience and the organizers. Later, he confides in his mother, telling her he's decided to abandon this life. He confronts his agent, declaring, "Enough. I don't want fame anymore. My work ends here." The agent protests, "You can't just walk away like this." But Oscar, fed up, demands that David announce to the world that the man without gravity has either died or flown away into the sky. Oscar bids farewell to his mother, yearning for a quieter, separate life. In the days that follow, news spreads of the man without gravity's supposed death. People speculate wildly about his fate. Oscar's mother begins living alone, frequently visited by journalists seeking details about her son. She remains silent, revealing nothing. Years pass, and eventually, she too passes away. But Oscar is still alive, living under a new identity. He grows a long beard and uses a wheelchair to conceal his secret, ensuring he stays grounded. Working as a receptionist in a hotel, he blends into an ordinary life, and his co-workers treat him with kindness. One day, Oscar encounters his childhood friend Aghata. She recognizes him instantly, not by his face, but by the pink bag of stones she gave him as a child, which he still carries even now. That bag has kept him anchored to the ground all these years, and perhaps because of his secluded life, he never married. Their reunion brings a rush of joy, and they reconnect warmly. However, Aghata is no longer the girl he once knew. She confesses she's dissatisfied with her life, driven solely by a pursuit of money that has left her without a sense of purpose or conscience. She frequents the hotel with various men, a sight that pains Oscar deeply. He tries to share his feelings with her multiple times, hoping to rekindle their old bond, but she brushes him off, too changed to care. Despite this, it's clear Oscar still harbors feelings for her. Agatha's hardened outlook stems from years of struggles and regrets, and Oscar, unable to bridge the gap between them, eventually distances himself. Time passes, and through a twist of fate, they reconcile. Their shared history draws them back together, and they marry, settling into the same childhood home where their story began. The movie concludes here, with Oscar and Aghata finding peace in each other and their past.